That's right, they move away from each other. So if I have two positive charges, they're going to repel. Or if I have two negative charges, same thing, they're going to move away from each other. Good. What about set number 2?
They'll move towards each other.
They come together, so opposites attract, just like the saying. If you have a positive charge and a negative charge, they're going to pull each other closer. So if you don't have the right answer written down, make sure you get it written down. Same charges, they're going to repel. And this is the vocabulary I'm going to use to talk about this stuff. If you're repelling someone, you're kicking them away from you, keeping them away.
So number 1 would be repel.
Repel. And number 2, attract. If you're attracting someone, you know you're inviting them to come closer. So here's the toughest one. How can I increase the force between two charged particles? So these particles add more mass. So these particles are either pushing at each other or pulling at each other. A push or a pull is what?
Force.
It's force. Force is a push or a pull. So how can I make it stronger? You can add more mass. That's a good idea. So adding more mass with particles would be like if I have one negative and one positive, and they're pulling each other closer. If I make it 2 negatives and 2 positives, all of a sudden the force in between is stronger. If you have 2 people pulling versus 1 person, the 2 people are going to pull harder. Yeah, so these particles are only going to be one size. So there's no difference between like a really skinny guy and a really big guy. You okay there, Juan?
Yeah. You do that.
Yeah. Alright, so instead of more mass, I want you to write add more particles. You can add more particles. What's another way? There's another way that we practice when we're doing the hockey exercise.
You guys play hockey?
We play virtual hockey with positive and negative charges. Right? You guys like that hockey exercise?
Yeah.
Fine. So, what's the other way? So if I have this positive charge, how can I get it to move really far away? I'm going to add another positive charge. What can I do?
You go cool, you go with the positive charge. Closer to the target.
Closer. That's right. So if I have this up, positive charges repel. So if I put a positive charge here, this is maybe going to go a little bit. If I put a positive charge right next to it, they really don't like being close to each other. So it's going to just shoot away.
Take off.
Think of it as like, if there's someone that smells really, really bad, and they're like, so let's say I have horrible BO, just horrible. And I'm right here, you can't really smell it that much. Maybe you'll move a little bit away, you'll sit like in the back of the room. But if I'm like standing right next to you, or if someone's standing right next to you and they really smell bad, you're just going to book it. You're going to run the other
I'll
way.
spray them down on their perfume.
Well, that's another way. But the other way is, how can you increase the force? You can decrease the distance. So if you really don't like someone, but they're not near you, you're okay. But if someone you don't like stands right next to you, you're going to do your best to try to get away. Okay? So add more particles, decrease distance. And now the last thing, yesterday I gave out a bunch of stickers. I just want to see who's in the lead. Who has the most stickers from yesterday? How many do you
I
have?
have 4. I have 4 of them.
You have 4? How many do you have? Juan, Egan?
Oh, you can have any more stuff like you.
There's
2. There's 2.
2. How many do you have, Egan?
From yesterday?
Yeah, from yesterday, just yesterday. 4. All right, so we got a tie for first. Juan's a close second. I'm going to be giving out a ton of stickers today. So we'll see who's going to come away with the grand prize.
Hey, did you read this yet? We got 2. Oh,
Oh, yeah, what is that?
Mr. Shapiro.
All right. So now, let's take, I want to get through a little bit of notes. I want to get through it as fast as I can. Yes?
You know how many missing words from yesterday?
Yes, at the end of class, or I'll find you at the end of school and give you the assignment that we did. Okay? It's just an online thing. Do you have a computer at home or access to a computer? Perfect. Okay. So we have just a little bit of notes to get through. So this is right below do now, static electricity. I want to try getting through it in 10 minutes. I was 30 seconds off last period, but I think we can get through it in 10 minutes. All right. So ready?
What are we doing? Wait. Are we doing a static energy part?
So I'm going to go through notes. I want you guys to fill in the stuff that's bolded and in red. Okay? So Priscilla, what are you guys going to be filling in?
Nope.
Notes that are bolded and in red. And I'll be telling you guys what to fill in.
So we're gonna do it in our edition?
No, right here. Right here.
Oh.
At the bottom. Static electricity.
I should
Yep.
do it then.
So static electricity. So imagine you have a gold ring. I have a ring. It's gold. If I cut it in half, is this still gold?
No.
Yeah.
It's not a ring anymore, but it's still gold. What if I cut it in half again? Is it still gold?
Yeah.
What about again? Is it still gold?
Yeah.
Still gold?
No. Yeah. Yeah.
Still gold?
Yeah.
So if I keep doing this a million times and keep cutting it in half over and over and over, eventually I'll get to like this tiny, tiny, tiny unit. And if I cut that in half, at that point it's no longer gold. The smallest unit is called an atom. That's the first thing.
Get part of those speck of gold.
I don't know. That's a conversation we can have after. But the smallest, so this is the first thing I want you to fill in. The smallest unit of anything is the atom. So chemistry, we spend an entire year talking about atoms, how they react,
Ain't
how they work.
everything made out of atoms?
I have.
I better learn that in this house class.
She said if you like,
Do you guys actually pay attention in that class?
if you break an atom in half, you can blow it up or something.
So the way they make atomic bombs, nuclear bombs, is they take this atom and they break it in half. It goes big boom. But that's not what we're talking about here. So atoms, it's the smallest unit of anything. So depending on how this atom is made, we call it oxygen, or carbon, or gold, or lead.
Market's too old.
So what are atoms? What are they made of? So this is number 3.
Air and whatever the particle is made of.
They're not air. Air is made of atoms, actually. Air, the stuff around us, it's made of oxygen atoms, nitrogen atoms, carbon atoms, hydrogen atoms. Atoms are made of protons, neutrons, and electrons. So that's the second thing, number 3.
Ain't like there's positive and negative.
Yep, that's what we're going to be talking about.
Now what? Protons, neutrons, electrons.
Yep, atoms contain particles called protons, neutrons, and electrons.
Hey, protons are positive.
Well, we're going to get to that. That's right. That's right.
Hold on.
Yeah. So write this down. I want to get through this as fast as you can because then I have an activity for you guys to do. So there's protons, neutrons, and electrons, and depending on how many protons, neutrons, and electrons an atom has, that's how we say that something is lead, or hydrogen, or oxygen, or whatever. So just based off these words, I can tell you 2 of these have a charge and 1 of them does not. Which of these do you think does not have a charge? The proton, the electron, or the neutron?
Electron.
Everyone thinks electron doesn't have a charge.
Neutron.
Why do you say neutron, Hagen?
Starts with an N.
Starts with an N. What else? Go on. You can give me more than that.
I don't know.
What does neutron sound like?
Negative.
Negative. It does start with an N, but it sounds a lot like neutral, right?
Yeah.
Neutron, neutral. Someone says like, what side are you on? I don't know, I'm neutral. It means you're in the middle. So you have positive, negative, you like +1, -1, and here you have 0. Neutrons are in the middle, they have no charge.
So it's neutron?
So protons and electrons have an electric charge. Neutrons have no electric charge.
So I was right or I was wrong?
You're right with neutrons. And you're right with the positive charge. So here's the next thing you guys have to fill in. Protons have a positive charge, while electrons have a negative charge. Now, this is pretty easy for me to tell you, but it's going to be tough to remember. People always mix these up. So what's a trick that you guys can think of that will help you remember that protons have a positive charge and electrons have a negative charge?
There's a P and an N.
There you go. So protons
Well,
start with a
electrons
P.
have a what?
Negative charge.
It
So-
already says negative.
What?
It already says negative.
Oh,
It does.
shit. Oops, sorry, that's a typo. So I just want you to write a negative again. So protons have a positive charge, and we can see that because a good way to remember it, like Ethan said, they both start with a P. This isn't quite as clear, but electrons start with an E, and negative has an E in it. So when you're on the test, and I'm asking you, you have protons, neutrons, electrons, what's the charge on them? You can think, okay, neutrons, they're neutral, kind of in the middle, that's 0. Then you got protons, electrons.
Would it be like keep remembering your protons like as a positive?
Protons is positive, half, you're done. Right? All you need to know, protons, positive.
And then you'll just know what electrons would be.
The other one, yep. So in your notes, this will actually help you remember. Actually underline proton, positive. So the P in the protons, that's positive. That can help you remember. So normally atoms have an equal number of protons and electrons. So they have no charge. What's if you have +1 and you add a -1, what's the total charge going to be? What's 1 plus -1?
2. You have to get 2.
Does know how to do that? It's not
It'll be
going
2.
Oh, 1 plus is 0.
It's going to be 0. They cancel each other out. So if you have right here and you have right here, it's going to cancel each other out to get to 0. This is all the math that we're going to have to do, adding and subtracting 1. So atoms normally have the same amount of protons and electrons, and the charge equals. So regular atoms contain equal numbers of protons and electrons and have 0 net charge. Objects with no net charge are electrically neutral. That's the next thing I want you guys to fill in. Atoms with equal numbers of protons and electrons are electrically neutral. Fill it in. 1. Stay with me.
No.
Atoms with the same number of protons and electrons are going to be electrically neutral. So they have no charge.
Where's that?
Hey, could I have another piece of paper like this? I'm gonna start.
If you mess up, just cross it out and write by it, but I don't want you to take all the time to fill the rest of it. Wonderful. We got 3 minutes to get through this.
Sir, where do we find that?
So atoms, right under number 4, atoms with equal numbers of protons and electrons are electrically neutral. So all of chemistry is how these atoms interact, and it's how these atoms trade electrons. Some gain, some lose. We're not gonna go into the details of why atoms gain and lose electrons. That's what the entire year of chemistry is for. Today we're just gonna need to know that atoms do gain and lose electrons. They start off as neutral, but they do gain and lose electrons. So some atoms, so this is the next part you guys need to fill in. Some atoms gain electrons and have a negative charge. So if you add more electrons, which have a negative charge, you're going to be more negative. Some atoms lose electrons, in which case you're going to have a positive charge. So if I have an atom,
So positive and negative?
yep. So if I have an atom and I have 3 protons and 3 electrons, what's the charge?
Should be the same.
It's going to be the same. There's the same number. So what's the charge going to be? There's 0. Now let's say I lose an electron.
And it's going to be positive.
Then it's going to be positive 1 because I have an extra proton. Now, what happens if I gain an electron?
You'll have more negative.
You'll have more negative. So you can get it. Does everyone else get it? Juan, any questions on this?